Let's look at the camera. Let's. What kind of questions should we ask him, Abby? Because he be asking a lot of questions.
Along the lines of this?
You know, I got a question along the line.
Okay. Hello, what's up? I'm here with Abby and Trey. We're gonna have a great conversation of three strands. Why it's important to have a biblical community. Can we call ourselves three strands? Ecclesiastes 4:12. But why is that important? So let's just kick it off right now. Throw the question on the floor.
Throw the question on the
There we
floor.
go. What does a biblical community look like? What's the difference between like just a friend group and community and a biblical community?
I think it is a community where the outcome is fruitful, the outpour is fruitful, and the outpour is like Christ, basically. Because you could be in like a worldly community and the outpour is in Christ.
Okay. There we go. Drop the mic. I like it. So now, how do we, if a biblical community is the outward of Christ, right? They're giving fruit of that. It's a friend group, word worship, and prayer, but there's fruit coming from that. So how do we make that happen in our lives?
What did you say?
How do we take that biblical community definition and then make it happen in our life to where we now have a biblical community, and it's not just friend groups of my guys and girls, but I have a biblical community.
Live in the eyes of God. Accept that. You know, I mean, having a biblical community is really just like surrounding yourself with believers. You know, reading the word, investing your time, building that relationship with God, and accepting what comes with that, and holding yourself accountable for like your sins and stuff like that, and also continuously praying. You know, it's all about building that relationship with God, and that's really what it comes down to. I feel like that's really where you measure yourself at.
Okay. You got
Got
anything
a
to add?
question.
How do we how do we make it happen? How do we make a biblical community happen in our life?
I think first and foremost you got to pursue Christ,
Mm-hmm.
and then also I think you have to be intentional about it.
Yep.
Because if you just sit on the sidelines, it's not gonna come to you magically. Like those people aren't gonna. I mean, if you're pursuing Christ, I feel like your life will align to God's will.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think you need to keep an open mind and have the actions behind to build that community, because relationships are built with time. Like,
No, you can't sit on the sidelines. You got to go out and make it happen.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good.
Mm-hmm. How do you maintain
That
a
persistence.
biblical, that persistence? How do you maintain biblical relationships and not let them flutter away?
How do you maintain biblical relationships and not let them flutter away? You do it
And
by
that
being
persistence.
consistent.
And that persistence.
Yeah, that's by being consistent and always showing up. You may show up and not have the right thing to say. You may show up and it just be a dead hangout, but it's the fact that you are showing up. So over time, building up that consistency will build trust within each other. But now, so do you think that biblical community, can you mix guys and girls within that biblical community?
100%.
But for it to be a strong core, like, hey, these are my four people that I can be vulnerable with, I can share stuff about, and I know they're not going to shame me but hold me accountable. Should guys and girls be mixed into that? Or should you have your set, like I got my guys and you got your girls? Or should they be, do you think it's healthy for it to be intertwined?
It has to be intertwined, because just based off your gender doesn't mean that you didn't live through a specific, life event. Like I was abused as a kid, and so if I talk to another who was abused and she's a female, she's not gonna look at me because I'm a man different, that I'm gonna understand her perspective different because I went through that. So me, it could be situational depending on the topic we're talking about, but I feel like in most regards, you should never separate yourself based off gender, because then you're kind of separating yourself between possible people that could help you heal your trauma. So if you kind of distance yourself and separate yourself, like, hey, you know what? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not gonna tackle this. You feel me? I'm just gonna isolate. You know, you're never gonna accomplish anything with that. You feel me? You gotta have that community on your back.
So then where draws the line between, because you have your normal community hangouts, right? Guys and girls who are hanging out, eating food, sharing a little bit. May not going too in depth, but sharing maybe a little bit about your life. So where draws that line? Say, hey, now this is getting a little too deep. I need a group of just guys, or I need a group of just girls. What do you think, Abby?
Where the line is drawn?
Where's that line? Say, hey, now this is something I should just be sharing with just my girls or just my guys.
I think personal stuff, personal struggles, and I don't know, because I mean, you can hang out and do life with all your people, but your core people that you are pouring into and you're just edifying each other and like really like being with each other, they gotta be the same gender. Just because with certain temptations you're confessing or just general life things, I don't think spiritually it's healthy to like intermingle
Mhm.
that.
Depending on what that line is, and it's hard because there's not like a set concrete like, hey, this is a yes, this is a no,
Big
this is
facts.
guys, this is girls.
Because exactly what you said, I mean, there's certain things that
Certain things.
it depends on the person
Yeah.
because you could really grow and learn and heal with each other.
There's a lot of factors that go into it.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. So now, if we know what a biblical community looks like, we know how to make it happen, and we know kind of where that line somewhat is in the sand of, hey, this is what I should share with my guys, this is what I should share with my girls, and also why it's healthy to intertwine. Why is it important now for that to be our main priority of people in our life or influence versus just, oh, hey, they're just friends. They're my school friends, they're my church friends, they're my neighborhood friends, whatever it is. Why should we prioritize that biblical community over any other friend group?
I mean, because if you're not prioritizing, you're kind of just being a part-time Christian at that point. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you, I mean, okay, can you repeat the question so I can make sure I answer this correctly?
So why should we prioritize a biblical community over just a normal friend group?
Yeah, so you wanna, if you wanna base your life off of, God's plan and what He has set out for you, you have to make that sacrifice to not live within the world, the concept of the world. So if you know that the people that you're with aren't quote unquote believers or Christians, or common day Christians, and there may be as well part-time Christians or maybe not even Christians at all, that should not be somebody that you're surrounding yourself with. When I was speaking with Jeremy, he talks a lot about how he limits his temptations by, basically not even allowing his temptations to become in front of you. It's almost like your cell phone. If you never allow that temptation to be in front of you, you're probably not going to be inclined for that temptation, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I feel like that makes sense for prioritizing. If you're prioritizing God, you're not going to want sin and other world factors to come in between that relationship. So of course you should surround yourself with other people who have those same values. So that way, therefore, it should be easier for you to live your life, since therefore that temptation isn't there.
Okay.
I think that the world is very lonely. And I think, I mean, we all know that, like, the world, you're seeking all these, like, desires and pleasures and feelings and all this stuff. And every worldly relationship I've had, it is just, at some level, you're empty after hanging out with them. It's not, you're not being spiritually fed. And so you just, it might be fun, it might be, like, joyful and all this stuff, you might have a great time, but I think at some level you're still feeling empty and not, at least not fed.
It's like empty calories.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like a bag of
You
potato chips.
you are
eat it.
eating some, well, I was gonna say celery, but I guess
Eating
it's not
celery.
No, you need like some protein. You need a chicken sandwich, but you just ate a bag of potato chips. And you like, at
Biblical
first the
community.
bag of potato chips held me over.
You know,
but
that's
then-
really good. I
like
like
it.
the sauce.
But then I gained 20 pounds the last week, and I'm like, you know what I'm saying? What happened? You feel me? Like, well, this
That is a good point, because I read a stat that we're lonely. We're the most lonely generation. So we are the most lonely generation. But if you look, everybody with their problems are always searching for community in some type of way. Or if it's at like college, I'm trying to find a friend group. I'm lonely, so I want to find this friend group, but I'm having to sacrifice some of my morals to fill that void of community. I'm gonna have to go drink this, go to this party, smoke this, say these words, post this, whatever it is. Or just in life, like in the workforce, in a work area, or in your neighborhood, whatever it is. You're searching for some type of voided community, but where you fill that from, that void, is it going to be a biblical community? Or you have to sacrifice some things to fill that voided community? With hanging out with the wrong group of friends may not be the best thing for you.
Yeah.
But we're always searching to fill that void of community, which is why it's important to prioritize finding it in a biblical way.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I just approach it like real world, because I mean, I lived a lot. You know what I'm saying? I lived a lot of that life that people don't want to talk about. I basically lived all of it and seen it. And so I know how important community is, because I see like what they do to people. It's real crazy what people would do just for some attention. You know
Or
what
even
I'm
like,
saying?
like the whole thing, like if your
Work
friend jumps off a
acceptance.
cliff, would you
Exactly. Some people
Depends on
would
the
jump
friend.
off.
Depends on the cliff. Peace out.
You gotta tank.
Peace out. Peace, love, and happiness. Biblical community is good for
You know what I'm saying? Hey,